Hello and welcome to All About Bikes with BikeWale. It's our weekly segment where we talk about all the happenings from the two-wheeler world, not all, but the important happenings in the two-wheeler world. And then we talk about a motorcycle that I have ridden, and then we take some questions. So let's begin with what interested us in the course of the week. Now, first up, Aprilia has teased the SXR 160. It's the Maxi-Scooter version of the SR 160. They had already shown the scooter at the Auto Expo. We spoke about it then. It is meant for the more mature, stylized crowd in the scooter segment. It will be an expensive proposition. We've seen that Aprilias are not exactly very cheap scooters, but it should be worth your while given styling, the way it looks, and now the features that it comes with. Then we were also quite intrigued by the design sketch for the new Monster 821. Now, Ducati Monster has come to India in various engine capacity options. The cheapest one was the 797. The 821 will, when it makes production, and it will come to India, I think, sometime next year. And when it does, it will go up against the Triumph Street Triple. It should be an interesting motorcycle to ride. We've seen the Monsters in the past. They have the right noise, they have the right involvement, so that should be interesting to see. And finally, we have the MT-25, the Yamaha MT-25. It was unveiled in Malaysia. Will it come to India? We don't know. Will it work in India? Not with the current sort of pricing that Yamaha goes about its MT versions. The MT-15 is already on sale. It is essentially the naked version of the R15. The MT-25 is also follows the same philosophy. It comes with a parallel twin 35 bhp engine. If priced well, I think there is demand for it, and it should find takers, but that pricing is really the key. And so we can't really say whether it will come to India or not, but if it comes at a great price, then we'd be a happy bunch. And now, let's talk about the motorcycle, or in this case, the motorcycles I rode this week. So I rode the Huskies, the Husqvarnas. Comes in two versions, the Svartpilen and the Vitpilen. The Svartpilen's the more upright, or its take on the modern day scrambler, and the Vitpilen is the cafe racer. We have a full-fledged video for these motorcycles, a review video coming out next week, but I'll quickly run you through. Between the two, I prefer the Svartpilen. It's more comfortable in the way you sit on it. The Vitpilen demands a lot more from you physically with its clip-on handlebar, and these are based heavily on the Duke. So why would you want to pick these over the Duke? A, they're cheaper, and two, I think they're better looking. But more on that in our video next week. So now let's take some questions. And now to take questions, we'll start with our Insta account. And Shailesh Sabnis asks, please compare Hornet 2.0 with the TVS Apache RTR 204V, and are USD folks really good over conventional folks? So we haven't ridden the new Hornet, the Hornet 2.0. The RTR 200 is a great motorcycle, so the Hornet has a challenge on its hand, but we will not be able to comment and say which is better unless we've ridden them back to back, or at least ridden the Hornet on the road. As for USD versus conventional folks, now the whole idea behind this is that the meteor portion of the fork, you have a larger meteor portion in the USD, while on the conventional folks, the thinner portion, you have more of that where it's towards the top where it's clamped. So the USD gives you higher rigidity or less twisting, let's say under braking, compared to conventional folks. But that's when braking forces are high, you've got a motorcycle that's really fast, that can get up to speed. Not so much on lesser capacity motorcycles, but of course, USDs look cooler, they look nicer, so that's the real difference in the lower or less powerful motorcycles. The Arkham Knight asks, R15 V3 or the RC 125? So I'd say the R15. I think the R15 mainly because it's a motorcycle that is roomier, and it is less demanding on the road in terms of the seating triangle. Plus, if you go out and ride on the track, it's better damped. Whether you're a newbie rider on the track or you're an expert rider, I think the R15 just makes for a nicer motorcycle to ride, and it's a larger capacity. It has a larger capacity, so that helps as well. D Lone Rider asks, I need a bike where I wouldn't do more than 500 kilometers a month. I have some trail riding in mind to do, maybe twice or thrice a month, and of course he will use the motorcycle for grocery shopping. So and he'd want to tour as well. So he considered the Himalayan, and he says that the reason that he doesn't want to go for it is because he feels that it's high on maintenance and low on reliability. But let me just clear that I don't think that's true for the BS6 version. Now we've had it for a while, not exactly on long term, but we've had it with us for many months now, and we've ridden it in all sorts of situations. We've had no problems. The engine it still sounds the same. We've had nothing breaking. Performance has been consistent, so I don't think that's a worry anymore with the Himalayan. But of course, he goes ahead and says that should you look at the X-Pulse? X-Pulse is also a great option, but if you want to tour, the Himalayan makes for a better bet. Now you have to decide where you're going to use it for. I think when it comes to commuting, I'd pick the X-Pulse over the Himalayan. When it comes to off-road, again, if it's really tricky, I'd pick the X-Pulse, but if it's faster dirt sections, I'd probably take the Himalayan. And for touring, I'll pick the Himalayan. So you need to decide what is priority for you, and then you can choose between these two. And he says, is there any other option that he could look at? Then you spend more and you've got the if you're not very serious about off-roading, the KTM 390 ADV is also a good option, and now they'll also be coming out with the 250, so you can wait for that and then make your pick. We've got Shivanshu. He's asking when will the Yamaha XSR 155 launch? Honestly, I have no clue. Can they launch it? Yes, they can, because it's essentially the same platform that we've seen that exists. They just need to strap on different styling and can do it. But will consumers pay that sort of money for what is essentially a new retro motorcycle? I'm not so sure. Okay. We've got a question from Shubhajit, who says, also one more thing, should I buy a bike in the coming 4 months? So this is a continuation of the XSR 155. He's asking whether he should wait for that, or should he just buy a motorcycle now? And he's also asking whether we will see the R25 and the CBR 250RR. Again, I think the possibility of the R25 coming to India is very little, and for the CBR 250RR coming to India is almost negligible, because it's a very focused motorcycle, very expensive motorcycle. So yeah, go ahead, buy something else for now in that category, because none of these bikes are coming to India in a hurry. All right, and we've got Manoj, who says, who's asking, why is India so slow in terms of technology and upgrade? I mean, to twin or 4-cylinder motorcycles. Only RE has done that, and that after such a long time. Hero, Bajaj, TVS are giant companies, but why do they lack this sort of innovation? So I think the thing to understand is that, or the question to ask is, do they have the capability to do a multi-cylinder, powerful motorcycle? Yes, they do. Do they have the money to do it? Do they have the R&D expertise? Yes, they do. Will they find buyers for that in India? No, they won't. At least not to the level where it justifies all the R&D, justifies building a vendor base for the sales that you'll get. And of course, if they want to make profit per motorcycle, then they'd have to price it really high, then nobody would want it, and it doesn't make sense to have a motorcycle that's making losses. So they can do it, The only reason is that our market isn't ready to pay that sort of money in numbers for them to be, for it to be a viable option for them to enter. Yeah, I hope that answers that question. Shyam Gopi asks, are tubeless spoked rims that are much more expensive? Are they much more expensive, or is there very little gain, especially now that the ADV 390 has decided to prove off-road capability with alloy wheels? Okay, so I think essentially he's asking is, should spoked tubeless rims, should you go for that, or should you go for alloys when you want to ride off-road? Of course, spoked tubeless rims are very expensive compared to alloys. How are you going to find them? That's another challenge. I think you've got the Suzuki 650 that comes with that. You've got BMWs that come with that. And a lot of people are converting regular spoked rims to tubeless ones by running some kits that come. But of course, it's not the same as having a tubeless spoke rim. So between the two, yes, I think the alloys make sense. If you're not into very severe off-roading, the alloys will work. You might have to bump up the pressure at times if you're going over rocks to save the damage to the rim, but otherwise you can use it. So, and the kind of money that you'd need to spend to get a tubeless spoke rim, I don't think that's going to happen for Indian bikes in the near future at all. Okay, Manoj Nambiar asks, is it worth waiting for the KTM 490 ADV? My thing would be that you should go ride the 390 ADV. You should see what you need extra on the 390 ADV. Now, will the recipe change when you move from 390 to 490, I guess, yeah. From 390 to 490, no. The recipe isn't going to change. All you're going to get is more torque, more power. It isn't going to turn into the 790 ADV, or it's not going to follow the same philosophy as the 790 ADV. That's not going to happen. It's still going to be a very, very road-biased motorcycle that can go and do off-roading. So, is it worth waiting for? We don't even know when it's coming. So, no, I think you should go buy yourself a motorcycle today, ride it now, and when it comes, then you can, of course, trade in. Shadow Sparks asks, confused about buying the FZ25, the RTR 200 and the Dominar 250. Since there's a good price difference as well. He wants to know which will be good on, which will be low on maintenance, good on mileage in the city, and which will offer comfortable seating for both city and long rides, and which will be comfortable for a pillion rider. So I would say in that the balance, you'd get a very good balance in the RTR 200. The FZ25 is a light motorcycle, is a very city-friendly motorcycle. But it's not great on torque compared to the Dominar, for instance. The Dominar again works really well for touring, but it's a heavy motorcycle, so it's not as great in the city. The RTR in that sense balances all of that, and but go ride the three back-to-back and see which you would pick. But since you're looking for a compromise, I think the RTR 200 is a good compromise in that sense. And our final question comes from My Square Frame. He asks, or she asks, my budget is between 1 and 1.5 lakh. Which is the best bike to buy? Or should I wait for the Zeppelin? That's the TVS Zeppelin. I think the TVS Zeppelin will not come for this at this price point. It will be more expensive. Between 1 to 1.5, I think the Hero 160R is a great motorcycle to buy. It's light in weight, it's efficient, it's fun to ride. You can use it for commuting, you can take it to the twisties over the weekend close by, and it's a blast every time you ride it. It's not very fast, it's not very powerful, but in terms of being fun to ride and easy to ride, it's right up there. And now let's look at what the YouTube universe is asking us. Now the 160R is a light motorcycle, so that's one of the things that you want. You want a low seat height so that you can get your feet down firmly, and you also want a light motorcycle if you can't get your feet down firmly, so you can balance it if things start to go wrong. So my suggestion would be go take a test ride, see if it works for you. I think it should, but like they say, proof of the pudding is in eating it, so go ride it and see what it's like. We've not ridden the Honda X-Blade BS6, so we will not be able to comment on that, but the older X-Blade, it didn't have a very good spread or reach for its LED headlamp. So if we were to rate these three, we'd say right on top would be the Apache, followed by the 160R, and then probably the X-Blade. Now the thing about going to Ladakh is that you have people who've done it on scooters, who've done it on TVS XL, so and of course you've done it on, I mean, people have done it on bullets and motorcycles meant for that. So if you have the will, you can do it on anything. Can you do it on the Dominar 250? Yes, you can. There is enough place and options to load luggage. You can do it with your wife, no trouble at all. You might have some issues maybe with ground clearance, but I think if you invest in a decent set of tires that will work off-road, then I think you're pretty much set to do it on the Dominar 250. So I would say the Dominar 250 makes for a better motorcycle when it comes to touring. You have more grunt, it's smooth, and honestly we haven't ridden the new version of the FZ25, and this is going by our impressions of what the older one was. I think the Dominar 250 is definitely the better motorcycle to tour on. And that's a wrap on All About Bikes for this week. But please leave your comments, tell us what you thought. Was this segment helpful and what we can do to make it better. Also put in your questions, what you want answered for next week in the comments below. And of course, do subscribe, hit the bell icon so you know when we are coming up with new videos in the future. Thank you for watching.